This is All Rats with Team 4545 League, analyzing the game between Ghostfire and H-Cube. This event was played in Team 53. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, I think this is called the Paulson variation. Certainly good for an interesting and even game. But I think this move here, 6A3, is just wrong. It just spends a tempo that White doesn't need to worry about spending. White could just play Bishop E2 and get ready to castle. Black's not really threatening anything White should worry about. Bishop B4 is easy to deal with. So, anyway, that just helps Black out. He's getting an even game here very easily. Okay. Now, theoretically, White could have this position and an extra move if you put the pawn back on A3. Like, for instance, he could have the bishop on E3 and be prepared to play F4 here. But he doesn't. And now he slides his king over to avoid some pins. But pinning is the motive here. It's going to come up and bite poor White here in a little bit. Now, last round, HQ played a very quick game, and I'm happy to see he has slowed down. Okay, because that's the way to play. And Black has to be very happy with his position here. He's just totally equalized. White hasn't really demonstrated anything yet. Theoretically, White wants to attack on the king side in his Sicilian defense, but where's the attack? White hasn't completed his development yet. And usually you're going to do it with moves like F4, Queen E1, Queen H4, Bishop F3, and so forth. And White is far removed from any of that. And Black is just going about his way, getting his queen side developed. And in some cases, with the fianchetto bishop on B7, Black can actually have some nice lines to play with of his own and be attacking the king himself. So anyway, let's move on. So Bishop F3, it just seems wrong simply because you're taking away that F4 move from you. But there's a couple moves that took that away from White already. He's kind of wasted time with King H1. So what was the point of King H1 if you're not going to play F4? You could have kept the king on G1 and played Bishop F3 just fine. So White's kind of wasted two moves here. It's true he has development. The development is about even, but White's got nothing much else besides that. Okay. So then Black just continues his development, which is fine. And really, do you want to play Rook E1? I mean, I'm really wondering what White is doing here. Now F2 is hanging. Now Black's not attacking it, but it's hanging. The king no longer guards it. The rook no longer guards it. And White hasn't committed to Bishop E3, which definitely secures it. So something I'll mention in all these videos where I see it. Here we are at move 11, and White is giving has not moved his queen bishop and queen rook. He's giving Black odds of a rook and bishop. And we see this come up in so many games. It's something to ask yourself whenever you're playing. How long are those guys going to stay home? I got to get them out. So for White to have any chance, that's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to get them out. And Black is still developing too, but really Black has a wonderfully solid game. He's got a standard Sicilian defense set up. The A6 and B5 pawns belong there. The rest of his pawn structure belongs there. The knight can go to either C6 or D7 in this position, and then from there, from either of those squares, it's controlling E5. It can hop in there and chase that bishop out. It can go to C5 and pile up on E4. It can do a lot of things, and then before you know it, Black can have all kinds of play on the C file. So what's White do? And this is just basically wrong in principle. White's opening up the game before his development is completed. Okay, we can just find so many other good moves here for White. Not saying that White's getting anywhere. The game is basically even. But these guys, here, I'll point at them again. What are they doing there? They're not doing anything. Okay, bishop, can you play bishop e3 here? Well, e4 is covered. Okay, so let's just play it. Okay, now knight b d7. Now, let's move the queen somewhere. Where do we want to move the queen? We don't really want to move it to d3. It'll just get kicked. Okay, but let's just put it on e2. Okay, let's just put it there. Now, what's black going to do? Well, like I said, he could play knight e5. Okay, fine. Let him play knight e5. Now, probably at this point, white has to give up the bishop because he's kind of floundered here. But black has some reasonable moves that he's threatening besides knight takes f3. Do you see what they are? Well, it's actually one move in particular, and I'll just show it to you. The threat is to play knight to c4. And this bishop might be a little more valuable for black to take off than the other bishop. So with that in mind, if white's going to allow this, maybe he's happy that black takes that one bishop. What white should do is play rook a d1. And then if knight c4, well, yeah, okay. Now we play bishop c1. Now it comes back to where it was, but at least we've got the rook out. And the bishop is... It's true it's not developed, but in a way it is. It's still on that diagonal. It'll come back into play at the right time. It might even get fianchettoed. We could maybe play b3 and put it on b2. I'm not saying that's any good. The game is essentially even. White certainly isn't winning. White certainly doesn't have any kind of an advantage. But black isn't necessarily winning either. The game is as even as you can get, and black should be quite happy that he isn't having to weather any kind of an attack. So this variation obviously isn't forced, but it's nothing wrong with it for black to go into it. But that's how white should have probably proceeded in this. And if black chops off the bishop, well, he chops off the bishop, okay? And you just keep playing and try and do something. You got a little room to maneuver on the king side now. Maybe white can try and generate something up over there. But anyway, e5 is just wrong because what it's doing is it's just opening up lines that black can use. Okay, that's what it's doing, and it's going to cost white the game here very very quickly. Okay, so black just does the logical thing. He takes it. Now, I guess white's got these fantasies of making threats on the queen side, but black covered those. I mean, white was maybe hoping for bishop takes bishop, and then his queen takes, and now his queen's attacking a8, but that's easily defendable. So it's kind of white's playing impulsively. And now all white has done is he has just regained his pawn. And yeah, it's true, he got rid of what could have been a bad bishop for him, and got rid of what could be a very good bishop for black. But once again, here's the problem. The problem is these guys. And I've said it since move 11. And they've been sitting there the whole game. And they've had a chance to get out. And they're still sitting there. But now what happens is black starts making some threats. Now there's a pin. And white's got to deal with that. And his game's all of a sudden is very difficult. And without suggesting a move, let's just consider this for a moment. Okay, one piece is attacking it, one piece is defending it, but the key is the knight on d4 is pinned. That's the key. So black can start piling up on that in a lot of ways. He can get a knight to c6, and that looks nice because black's starting to win right away with knight c6. The rook moves and you eat the knight, you know. Okay, and aside from that, there's also bishop c5 in combination. Suddenly white's got some serious issues here, and I'm not sure what the best move is. I'm not even going to worry about the best move. That's for white to stop and figure out. What can you do here, white? Well, you wouldn't have gotten in this trouble if you hadn't have pushed e5, because now black's just controlling the board. I mean, the queen's on this wonderful diagonal. The rook's pinning a knight. The black bishop has open lines that weren't there a few moves ago because there was a pawn on d6. The undeveloped knight on b8 is threatening to come in the game with tempo. You know, guys, you can't allow things like this to happen. And still, as I'll say it again, when are these guys going to get out? And logically, you might say, well, let's just protect the knight, get him a little safety. But now it's not so clear about the rook. Where's the rook going to end up? Well, he's probably going to be okay, but But again, you have to stop and work all this stuff out. Okay, let's see. Knight c6. Well, you got to move the rook somewhere. Yeah, where are we going to put it? Looks like maybe only one square. But once again, you know, suddenly black's got this initiative against this knight, and you know, bishop c5 followed by queen a7, all kinds of things, or even queen b6, one or the other. But anyway, white just kind of falls apart here and just allows the pin, and there's really, I'm not going to analyze it all out, there's really no good move. White just elects to give up some wood here, and now he takes the bishop off with check, and then those wishes, so he gets the piece back. But what white has done is given up a rook and a minor piece for a queen, and that's just simply not enough material. You need more than that. You need at least 2 pawns. 1 pawn sometimes isn't enough, even though the point counts the same, but you almost need 2 pawns. But there's a lot of chess to be played. Black has to prove that he can win this, and one logical way is just offer exchanges. And finally that bishop gets out, finally. Move 19, and finally the rook gets out, but black's happy to play attrition here, and he says, let's trade some more. And white really can't just sit and afford to keep trading pieces. He'll just get traded down to an ending where that queen dominates and game over. So then black comes up here and offers to exchange another one, and white can't win the pawn. There's this little subtle threat. You see the tactic? Knight takes, pawn takes, rook takes, and then black has this little move, queen e1. Okay, so black's getting everything he wants. The material's just coming right off the board in a hurry. So white tries knight e4, and suddenly the black pawns start rolling. Now we're threatening to come up to here, so white's just hurting, and he finds this move attacking the queen, but really, you know, that knight is tied down. It's under attack, and it's guarding a bishop, so black just goes and attacks the bishop, and he did it the right way. Do you see the flaw with queen d7? Okay, pause the video if you don't see the flaw. Okay, you should have resumed the video. The flaw is white has rook takes d6 or d5, and after pawn takes d5, there's knight f6 check, and suddenly white's winning. He's got the queen. So let's give black credit. He found the right way to do it. Good job. Okay, so you always got to think of these tactics, you know. And he's still going kind of slow with his moves, which is good. But unfortunately now, like I say, he's just dropped the piece, and there's really nothing white can do here. He's down a queen for a rook. I guess the game's resignable now, but black finds a interesting continuation here. He says, not yet, but here. Okay, e3, have the piece. And what else are you going to do? You might as well take it and make black prove it. And black just shoves the pawn a square, and white's just in deep trouble here. So he activates it, and then we come down here, and there's a threat of mate in 2, right? Queen f1 check. So really, how can white stop this? Bishop c3, just to stop the promotion, still allows queen f1 check. So white just starts checking, spite checks we call them, and pretty soon he's going to run out of checks. Now, that was the right way to go. You can't go to f5, you get hurdled with rook f8 check. And suddenly white's out of useful checks, and he chose to resign, and there's really no other choice here. Black just has too much of a gain of material coming, and he's probably checkmated, and you know, he's got to stop the back rank mate, and then black just gets another queen. Ouch. Yeah, it looks like mate over here, doesn't it? So so what does he do? Does he shove the pawn 2 squares? Well, that probably gets him mated too. Queen takes check. If king here, this is pawn promotes mate. Bishop a2, pawn promotes mate. Yeah, it's just over. So the lesson here is, don't open up a game when you don't have your development done. Okay, even though it was a Sicilian defense, and black had equalized, you still don't want to open up their game, open up the position when you're not developed. That's the lesson. I thank everybody for their time. Great game, H-Cube. Better luck next time, Ghostfire. And we'll see you all again next video. Take care.